So good afternoon to everyone joining us in Switzerland, and good morning to our audience connecting across the Americas. I'm Tatiana Gaspar from the Latin American Chamber of Commerce in Switzerland, LATCAM. It is a tremendous pleasure and honor for me to host and moderate this webinar, which is a joint venture between LATCAM and the Swiss Chambers of Commerce in Latin America. Together with my co-host, Christian Michel Casuyeras from the Swiss Chamber in Mexico, we are sending a special greeting and thanks to our colleagues at the Swiss Chambers in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, and Chile, who have put a lot of enthusiasm and passion into confirming 8 of the region's top female corporate leaders from Swiss multinationals for this panel discussion. What an incredible and extraordinary achievement. We are definitely writing chamber history today. I am absolutely delighted to welcome our wonderful panelists who are joining us from 8 different countries and introduce them to you. Marion Brecker, CFO at Roche Pharma for Uruguay, Bolivia, and Paraguay. Hi, Marion. Monique Crua-Brown, General Manager at Novartis for Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. Hi, Monique. Paula Cobo, General Manager at SIGPA Ecuador. Hello, Paula.
Nice to meet you.
Lizzie Kennedy, Country Manager at Nestle Paraguay. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Tatiana. Hi, everyone.
Karina Lerma, CEO at Fracht Mexico and CEO, founder of Valmic Logistics Mexico. Hi, Karina.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi.
Ana Tuñón Orico, Head of Diabetes Care at Roche for Central America, Caribbean, and Colombia. Hi, Ana.
Hello, everyone.
Susana Torres, President of the Swiss-Chilean Chamber of Commerce, formerly CEO at Endres & Hauser in Chile. Hi, Susana.
Hi, Tatiana. Hi, everyone.
And Bettina Zimmermann, CEO at Roche Peru. Hi, Bettina.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you.
A warm welcome, ladies. What a pleasure to see you all. And welcome to my co-host, Christian, who has been so forthcoming and helpful in the preparations. This webinar is entitled Gender Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion in Swiss Companies in Latin America. Why did we choose this topic? While gender diversity in our society is an undeniable fact, many companies and organizations still struggle with ancient stereotypes and hesitate to provide equal chances to people of all genders and cultures. Diversity and inclusion go hand in hand. When diversity is achieved, then because we realize and understand that including everyone in the process of creation, innovation, development, and growth simply leads to better, more sustainable results. The ultimate removal of stereotypes is achieved through equality and equity. Equality is when everyone gets the same opportunity. Equity is when each one gets the support they need to be able to seize that opportunity. I want to share a slide that I found which illustrates perfectly well the difference between equality and equity. Let me see if I can now share it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. To my knowledge, the only country in the world that is leading by example in all of these aspects, including equal pay for equal work, is Iceland. In Switzerland, things have been slowly moving in recent years. However, there is still about 14.4% wage discrepancy on average across all sectors. In other words, women have to work about 7 weeks longer to arrive at the same pay level as men for the same kind of work. I find it striking that the gap widens the higher women climb on the career ladder. What women earn less than men today reflects in an even wider pension gap later in their lives. Younger female generations are not always aware of this, so there is a danger that they may lose momentum, and we still have a long way to go. I'm very anxious to hear from our panelists about their experience and their perspective as women, corporate leaders, and role models. Dear viewers, as usual, this webinar is recorded for our YouTube channel, LATCAM Switzerland. If you know someone who cannot be with us live, that's where they can watch it later. Now let's start with the panelists of the more northern region, Anna, Bettina, Karina, and Paula. My first question is for Bettina, as I know you have a time constraint and must leave us early. Now my question, transformation starts at the top, but also at the level of recruitment and promotion. A company must embrace certain principles before starting to implement measures that lead to an inclusive culture. What does your company do particularly well to implement diversity and inclusion?
Thank you, Tatiana, for the question and for the invitation. I had the opportunity to work on the gender topic over the last 10 years. And from my experience within Roche and also within other companies, what I've seen is working if the company takes a very strategic approach to gender. Like we take business approaches, we do strategies, we define targets, we define action plans, and we monitor how do we deliver on these targets. And I think for me that's a key element, because in many situations, what I have seen also within the organization and also with external organizations that are helping to increase female leadership, it's not only about events, it's about how do we take it from a very strategic perspective. And I think that's what at Roche we have done really well. So we have top level targets for different levels, and we have developed strategies. So for instance, in Latin America today, we have more female general managers than men general managers. I think that's an incredible target, and we have made that within quite a short time, having set a LATAM objective on the top level, and then started understanding what are the root causes, why we aren't there yet, and what are the key drivers that we need to work on in order to really get there. Also, when we look at the employee level, Roche globally, we have an equal workforce, female and male leaders. And I think a key element there is also about what are the policies that we put in place, for instance, maternity and paternity leaves, etc. So I think it's about targets, it's about setting a strategic approach and having the right policies in place.
Thank you, Bettina. I would like to invite the others from your group to add any comments if they will.
Thank you, Tatiana. Maybe something to add there that I completely agree with Bettina. It's that having the chance to set specific targets, actually to analyze the numbers and comparing them against other companies in the industry, help us, of course, to improve our performance in equity and in inclusion in general. So I have a finance background, so I love numbers. And I believe that we cannot improve what it's not measured. So to be able to have the metrics in hiring and inclusion in different, so in promotion, salaries, training, and other subjects, I think it's also very, very important to actually talk about facts and to see which is the way forward that we can push, like the inclusion and better labor practices in our companies.
Thank you, Paula. No other comments? Then I would like to take another question and go to you, Karina. A diverse workforce can result in an increase in productivity, competitiveness, and profitability. What have been your observations with regard to diversity?
Well, actually, I have been in an industry which is well known for not being so diverse, at least in the last couple of decades, right? Logistics has been well known for being very focused on single gender, on male gender, and it has been changing little by little. So from my perspective, what I have seen is that, yes, absolutely, the productivity increases, and not because of this, belief that women can do things better than men in administrative positions or certain positions in a company, but moreover because diversity means to share different perspectives, different points of view of a certain situation. So in this respect, what I have seen, at least in the 3 companies in which I have participated for the last 20 years, is that when we have inclusion and increased gender equality and mix in not only middle positions, but higher positions, we see heavy increase in productivity. And why is that? Because we have a very diversified view and business perspective, not only economically, but also in one very important factor, which is how people actually manage their work within the company. It's very important to trigger the potential in each individual. This is actually what generates the largest productivity in a company. And you can only achieve that by having distinct points of views in which you can actually potentialize what each individual in the team is looking for, and then you unify that vision and you target for a single goal.
Yeah, that seems to me like a very modern point of view. And any other comments from your group regarding this question?
Maybe I can add something.
Okay,
I
go
think I think there is a topic around having 1 woman or 2 women. I think data shows us very clearly you need to have a critical mass of a diverse workforce, and female leaders count into this diverse workforce in order to see all the beautiful impact that was just mentioned before. So I think that's a key element. It's not just about 1 woman, it's about having a diverse workforce, and at least the magic number based on studies seems to be 2.
And also I would like to add that it's not only about increased productivity, that I fully agree with Karina. It's also about being more closer to our customers. So our customers are diverse, are women, are men, are different nationalities, whatever. So as far as we can be closer to our customers, we will be more successful as a company. So having diversity is also about that. It's also about having communities inside of the company that are closer to our customers' view.
I understand. Thank you for that, Anna. Actually, my next question is for you, Anna. In your opinion, is there a female angle, a female view on business? And how is it different from a male angle?
Always male and female has different angles to see the situation. But it's not only about gender, it's about gender, about different nationalities, about different cultures. So everyone has a different point of view of the situation, can have different ways to analyze the situation, to solve problems, and this is very rich for the organization. And this is not only about having diversity, it's about also taking account these new ideas. Is like having all the ideas on the board, take decisions together. So work on the unconscious bias also to work on that. No, it's not only having people from diverse cultures and diverse gender, having women on the board, it's also about taking these ideas on count and also be part of the decisions. So that is very important for us. No, it's not only the different point of view, it's also about taking these different considerations and making our decisions even stronger and even better decisions, and also improve the innovation. That brings innovations to the company, and this is clear. No? More different point of view bring new ideas and new ways of working. So that is so important for a company.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Probably Tatiana, to highlight that the business vision and the success that men or women could have in business will depend on their talent and competences and not on the gender, because of course we all have different backgrounds, different experiences, and that shape our approach to business. But of course the view the vision that we have in the business and our success will depend on our talent, and in my opinion, of course, not in the gender.
I absolutely agree with what Paola just said. I think it has to be more over than a compliant issue. It has to be an issue in which we rely not on gender, but on what the actual capabilities of the individual and the contribution to the team are, right? Because there seems to be some gray area between that. And it's not about complying with a principle. It's about making sure that that principle is focused towards the general goal.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think also this is very important, what you just said. And Paola, the next question, I would like to start with you. What do you think is the business case for gender equality? Why does it matter in the overall success of a company?
Thank you, Tatiana. Well, I also work in an industry right now that we are underrepresentative this is in the tech industry. So actually here in technology, we see that of course we have improved the metrics, but we still have a long way to go. And the gender equality and women's equal rights are fundamentals. It's like the precondition for sustainable development, of course, and to get there and to have gender equality in the workplace. We have already seen in different information statistic reports that it benefit the environment, it increased the engagement, the profitability for the companies as well. It reduced turnover in the companies, and of course, in some cases, even it influence positive the opportunity to attract top talent in the industry. So, of course, the business case is very important, and I think that we need to continue to work in it, because if we, for instance, now today we still see like a very important gap in gender economics. So to get equal pay for equal work, we are far behind in some countries. So in general, the average is that women earn 20% less than men for equal work. And actually, if we get to equal pay, actually we will benefit the economies of those families, and this will impact in general in the growth of the economy. And so it's like the business case, we have different challenges. So we have in the workplace, in the political arena, in health. So I think that we need to continue to work in different industries. I think that the effort has to be a little bit more strong to take the lead and to take the action, not only to have these spaces which are really important to discuss and create awareness of what are the opportunities and challenges that we are facing in different countries, but also to be able to, I don't know, to show with actual actions how we can actually improve and support other women and create a more fair work environment with more equal opportunities. And I love the slide that you showed just before, because we talk about equality and we talk about inclusion, but sometimes we do not understand that in order to offer equal opportunities to everyone, companies and governments and policies in general need to have different kind of support in order for all of the talent has the chance to achieve and get those opportunities in the same way, you know. So I think that the gender case it's very important. We need to continue do the effort to create a more fair labor conditions in general in every country, in specific sectors much more than in others.
Thank you, Paola. Would anyone else like to add something?
Yeah, maybe adding an aspect when we look at, for instance, in consumer good industry, who is taking the buying decisions? In 80% of the cases, it's women, right? So how as a company we can attend more the needs of the real buying decision makers? So I think that's a key element. And the other key element, adding to what Paola said before, I think when we look at the challenges that we face in general as a society and also as companies, they're very complex today, and we need a different way of thinking in order to overcome these challenges. And I think that's where female leaders play a very important role to overcome these big human society challenges that we're currently facing.
Thank you, Bettina. Very important comment. Anything else? Then I would like to move to another quick round of individual questions concerning leadership, starting with you, Bettina, because you have to go soon. You have just recently taken over the position of CEO of Roche Pharma in Peru. What is your special recipe, how you inspire and empower your staff?
Very, very important question. Thank you, Tatiana. I think for me, it's about the vision. What is it that we want to achieve? And this vision goes much beyond only selling products. For me, it's what is a vision that we can provide to the company that is appealing for the employees, but also appealing for the external stakeholders. And for us, this is enabling that patients can benefit from our innovations in a healthcare system of high quality. So it has a social aspect, which is very important for people to buy into, and it goes much beyond only selling products. And then it comes down in how do we empower the workforce. And there, my learning is, or my takeaway is, once you have the vision, how do you set certain guardrails within people can find the best way to move forward towards that vision? How do we empower them and coach them and help them overcome barriers so that together we can turn a vision a reality? Because turning a vision a reality, you cannot only do from the top. We need the insights from the people on the ground, and they best know what are the responses or solutions to overcome the barriers that they see. So in Roche, we have a strong empowerment of the people at the front, and we enable and invite people to take decisions at the level where they have most insights. That gives us speed and gives us the best solutions also from a customer-centric perspective.
Thank you very much, Bettina. Now, Karina, you are in charge of two companies, Fracht and your own, Valmic. What would you say is the secret leadership component that makes it possible to manage and do justice to both?
Wow, that is a very interesting question. Well, actually, many people would think that it's more on the administrative hard skills, the financial, which by far is, it's very important. But I would have to say that based on the experience in the last years, I have seen that more and more it would be empathy, empathy, because when you can actually empathize with the people you work with on a daily basis, then you get to actually figure out that magical ingredient. The fuel, what moves each and every one of the team members to do things, to get up every morning and to actually commit to a project, to commit not only to working in a company, but actually making this company and this project be a part of them, be a part of their own project. So I would say it's absolutely yes, empathy. Once you figure out that, then you can actually trigger the potential in each one of the individuals in the team. And then only then they actually start working in a common ground. I think it also has a lot to do with equity and gender equality. Absolutely has to do, because when you empathize, then you can actually start generating the real conditions to make the speech become a reality. Otherwise, it's only a nice, beautiful speech, you know, gender equality, but you never see it in a tangible way.
Sort of put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. Walk the talk.
Walk the talk. Thank you very much, Karina.
You're welcome.
Now, Anna, in terms of diversity and inclusion, would you say that agile environments are more suitable and more successful? And if yes, why is that?
Thank you for that question. I think that in our company in Roche, we have been working in a transformation of our organization in an agile organization, moving from the traditional hierarchical organization into more agile organization. And that is because we need to prioritize right things. We need to be more close to the customers. We have to foster our innovation, and we have to improve our collaboration between all the people that work in our company. So join agile plus diversity is the best recipe that you can do, no? Because if it's about self-management teams that have to take decisions, that have to move forward, that have the empowerment to move forward. So as much as you have these diversity groups, the gender, the culture, all the diversity in these groups, it will bring more innovation, and it will bring great ideas to the company. So it's not only about having diversity inside the agile teams, in these self-management teams. It's about having diversity and taking account all the diverse ideas that can bring these teams. And this is the main reason because why inclusion is so important, even more in agile team, in agile organizations, whether the teams has to take decisions on their own. So having these different personalities, experience, backgrounds, point of views brings a lot of innovation to the company. And I think it's super important for the time that we are living right now, no?
Yeah, very interesting comment. Thank you very much. And Paola, can you tell us more about your mentoring programs? How can they be shared, promoted, and implemented on a wider, maybe national or regional scale?
Thank you, Tatiana. Well, I've been doing mentoring for the last 4 years. I am actually a finance mentor because of my finance background for Endeavor. And well, I believe it's the best way to accelerate development. So the purpose of mentoring, of course, is to connect someone who has more experience or more knowledge in a specific topic with someone that hasn't gained the same level of experience and knowledge yet. So of course, by having that support to offer that kind of guidance, of course, you benefit from the experience, not only from yourself, but of course, from this mentor. And I think it's very important, not only for career, but in general for life, because having a mentor is crucial to continue to grow and to continue to develop. And by the other side, talking about my experience, I think this has been very rewarding. Actually, being a mentor serves in a way to give back, and is an important development and learning experience as well, because teaching others is the best way to improve and to also keep learning and being a better leader and a better communicator. And so actually it has been very benefit for me as well. So I think that role models and mentorship cannot be underestimated. It matters. Seeing in terms of gender equality, it matters seeing a woman in specific roles, because then it's achievable. It's actually we need to break some walls, and when you see a woman that and you empathize with her, and you see that you have a similar background and similar challenges, and you are like very similar, it is important to have that reference, to have that role model. And if we as female leaders can actually give our time and give our support and give our experiences to other female women, or in general to other colleagues, and to support in that way, I think this is very key. And it's the greatest gift that you can actually give, your time. Actually, to share that with others is fantastic. So coming back to the question, what can we do, is what I was mentioning just before, is actually it's very important to take action, to go from speaking to actually doing. So so yeah, even if in your same company, to find a colleague and to mentor that colleague, or to other companies that you are more experienced with, or in a specific topic, even what Anna was just telling us about agile organizations and things like that. So if you know about the process and you have a specific competence, then of course to share your experience with others and to guide them how to get there and how to implement a specific process or whatever is the best way to accelerate development in general. So in gender equality, I think it's very key to continue the role, to have these female mentorship and female role models to attract more young girls, and actually women in general, to get there, because it's possible. Sometimes with the gap that we still see in different industries, in different countries, of course, probably it could take longer talking about my personal experience, I think, but it's achievable. So yeah, I think that it's our moral duty to provide and to share our knowledge with others as well.
Moral duty, well, that is a wise word of wisdom, and I fully agree. Mentoring is probably one of the most empowering aspects of everything we've been discussing so far in this webinar. So thank you very much for that, Paola. Would anyone from this group like to add anything?
I would just like to say, Tatiana, that it also something that we really have to focus on is we need to invest. You know, as leaders in very important companies, we need to make sure that we persuade our companies to continue investing in corporate social responsibility programs that demand more and more girl inclusions in technological programs, financial programs, and many of these areas in which in Latin America, girls still run behind when it comes to active participation in these disciplines, okay? More and more we need girls that are knowledgeable and that know actually, you know, technological abilities. So I really think that this is something in which we really have to focus on.
Absolutely, and it starts at an early age.
Absolutely, yes.
Preferably in kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We are moving at the speed of light and reached half time for this webinar already. Thank you very much, ladies, all, for providing us so much valuable input to think about. And I would like to move to the second group now, who works in the more southern region. Monique, Lizzie, Marion, and Susanna. And I want to address the first question to Lizzie. Why is economic equality, equal pay for equal work, so important in your point of view? You're on mute.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Tatiana, thank you for this amazing question. I think, and at Nestle, economic equality is very important. That's for every single position. We have a package of salaries and benefit condition. It doesn't matter who will cover this position. The condition must be equal. Equal pay is one of the key conditions to create a fair environment to work, and at the same time to assure well-being our collaborators and always their families also, increasing competitiveness between companies also. I think our priority is to attract the best talent It doesn't matter if they are people of different nationalities or socioeconomic status, if they have different physical and cognitive abilities also. The talent is how we can capture the fullness of their potential and the highest level of leadership. For example, in recruitment process, we focus on the search on hard and soft skills regarding the profile we need to cover that position. It doesn't matter the characteristics of the person. We must focus on our need, what kind of profile we need. Each of our markets also has a diversity and inclusion action plan designed to provide equal opportunities for everyone to contribute real to the company's goals. And I think that when somebody is paid for the work, so the person feel very well, feel that the organization take in consideration the efforts, so it's very, very important to have equality condition for all kind of position.
Thank you, Lizzie. Any other comments from the group?
I would like to add to Lizzie. I agree with Lizzie. And I also found some numbers. It says that worldwide, women only make 77 cents for every dollar earned by men. So it's a huge inequality worldwide. And in our region, it results in a lifetime of income inequality. So women and more women are retiring into poverty after this lifetime of inequality. So I really say that not to have fair conditions, equal pay is an obstacle of the economic autonomy of women, and also overcoming the poverty and inequality in our region.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I think it goes beyond pay, equal pay, right? Other benefits might be even more important, right? Flexibility in terms of time, location, offering childcare, for example, providing better support systems, I think is as crucial as the pay part.
Yes, agree.
Absolutely. Thank you for these comments. And my next question is to Monique. What are, in your opinion, the main stumbling blocks that need to be removed to achieve both gender equity and economic equality?
Well, I think I've been listening to my amazing colleagues, and I think they're so much to do, right? And I think for me, the way I like to approach it is starting with the people, because I guess we have advanced a lot. I mean, of course, every industry has its own type of environment, but when it comes to policies, programs, I think there has been advancement. But of course, it comes with the people and the type of culture you're living it, right? Either internally in the companies, but also from the environment perspectives. I think on the one side, we need to continue to bring the awareness and to engage in the conversations, right? That's for me the first thing we need to do. And I must say that myself, I debate a little bit if it's only about gender when we speak about diversity, but really the big scope of diversity, right? On the other side, when I think about and I think Paola kind of mentioned it, but I believe it starts with the people and on engaging on support others, right? And the challenges might be very, very different, either because of the country, either because of the company, but also, let's face it, females also have different, I would say, decades where they need to prioritize other topics of their lives, or they might choose to prioritize other things. And I guess many of my colleagues as myself, I mean, we were still working in an environment that, for example, my biggest son, he's 15, right? So because I wanted to get pregnant and have a family, I needed to type of
pay certain delays in my career. And it was a conscious choice, but this should no longer be the case. I think with the offerings that companies are making on a paternity leaves or this, it's starting to be like much more of a balanced type of environment. Of course, still things to be done. And I think as a community, we need to continue to push, hopefully to see the change we were aiming for, maybe not for our generation, but for the generations to come.
Thank you, Monique. Would anyone like to add anything?
Yeah.
Susanna.
It hasn't been mentioned, but I think it's a very strong thing to the gender stereotypes and unconscious biases. They are big barriers to the equality in the workplace. Because myself, I did a test. It is done by Google, I think, and I have bias. I tend to relate men to scientific work. Totally unconscious, right? Because consciously I don't think that, but everybody has that. So we have to be aware of that and always think and stop. And when you are deciding something, especially recruitment and so on, to think about our own biases, because all of us has something. So it is something we have to be aware of.
Absolutely.
And I would also say, I think Paola mentioned earlier the topic of measuring, right? And I feel that it starts with transparency, because transparency then creates accountability, right? So I feel a company needs to analyze the gender and other representations at various levels of leadership, perform pay equity studies, and then report the numbers to their employees regularly and in that way create accountability, right? And showing that they're making progress. But I think in many cases, transparency is still missing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marion. So now, Susanna, I have a question for you. How important are role models, mentors, and business angels? Please share with us what it means for you to be a role model.
Yes, it is of a huge importance, as Paola mentioned also. Myself, I think I had mentors since I was a little girl. It was my father. Then in school, I have a teacher that always showed me what to do, university, and also then some bosses, and also some people that work with me. So you always can find a mentor or sponsor or someone that is leading you in some way, helping you. And inside the companies, it's also very important. You can have external mentors, but also some sponsor in your company. For me, it was especially true because my last boss was one of my biggest mentors and sponsors. He always was looking at me, what I was doing, and telling me what to teach, what to learn, what to do to move forward to the next step. And even today, I am already retired from my CEO position at Henderson Hauser. He is still looking at me, what I'm doing, if I am a board member, what I'm doing there, and so. So I think personally, I have also a commitment to that. And I'm very active on doing also mentoring. I used to participate in Vital Voices, this road mentorship. And I belong to several women organizations where we do peer mentoring, or also are ambassadors for other girls, like Inspiring Girls, for example. So I think every one of us has to have the commitment to that, to mentor others and to help girls especially, and other women in the next step in their careers.
Thank you, Susanna. Would anyone else like to add?
Yeah,
yes, Tatiana, I want to reinforce the importance to be a mentor. I remember when I was the challenge of being the responsible of Nestle Paraguay. I found that I had to lead all the organization and not only one area. Like I was before in charge of marketing or in sales area. So I had a couple of mentors, and they really contributed a lot in this process. I remember they challenged me a lot to identify my weaknesses. So I had to focus on that. And at the other hand, identify my strength. So I had to potentiate those. So if someone had the possibility to have a mentor, I really recommend. I think all day you have something to learn from everyone. So it's important to adopt and to take advantage and to take mentor or someone with more experiences to maybe to accelerate your growth. So that's all.
Maybe Tatiana, I wanted to provide a different perspective, right? Because I think the importance of mentoring has been already shared, right? In a couple of the topics. For me, it goes slightly a little bit broader. And I think and it might be, of course, a bias, right? But I think as females, we're not that trained to build quickly big networks, right? And networks for me is the broader thing, because it might also be that it's not only for your career, but as a person, you need to have much more of a supporting system. And for me, that's what we need to be much better at, not only on asking for support, but also providing that support, so that we, as I said, we tackle the problem much more holistically, right? And for me, the only measurement we will have on how good we're doing that is if in the near future, females can develop much more quicker than what we needed to go through ages and ages on trying to grow, because we also need to realize that the world is rapidly changing, and I think the challenges are changing as well, right? So when I think about the new generations and the trends we see, maybe companies focused a lot on the paternity leave, but for female that wanted to step out of career because of getting pregnant, and maybe in the future, for the new generations, that's not going to be the new problem. Most probably it's going to be around how to go with your pets, or how to have much more of a quick career where you get lots of insights. So challenges are changing as well. So again, for me, it's on tackling it holistically and ensure we're able to provide the networking piece on supporting systems for the people very, very early in their careers.
Yes, if I may, I would just add that I totally agree with Monique. I think mentoring is part of an evolving learning process. It never actually ends, it's continuous. And I have seen it quite a few times that there comes a time when you reach a certain position or a certain level of experience in a discipline, and then everybody starts thinking that you automatically have to be a mentor, but can never be a mentee. And that's not entirely true. I mean, you don't necessarily become Yoda and know everything, after a while. You continue learning. So you have to have an open mind in order to see that as you evolve professionally, you also need to leave a legacy, but you also continue learning. So there's always a place for improvement and obviously for a broader network, like Monique said.
Absolutely, this is very important. I think so too, and one never stops learning as long as you draw breath. As long as you're alive, you can learn something from someone. And if you change countries, cultures, there's a different environment, different people, different impulses that you get. And absolutely, this is very important. So Marion, I would like to ask you the next question. What do you think? Is there a universal learning how women, how anybody can reach their full potential in terms of career? And if they aspire to it, also in terms of leadership?
That is a very big question. I think it starts with self-awareness, knowing yourself really well, knowing your strengths, also knowing what you want, right? I think we heard from Monique, right? If you want to take a break, also for family, that's also, I think your whole life plan has to be more or less figured out. You at least need to have an idea, right? And then with all that, figure out how to make it work, how to make your career work in the most authentic way possible, right? And I think that's also what diversity inclusion is about, that everybody can bring their own whole self to work and don't feel like they have to be somebody else or hide parts of who they are or trying to be someone else because they see, oh, for that person, it's working, so I need to copy them, right? So you should never try to copy them or fit into a mold. Also, I think especially for women, it is important to challenge your limiting beliefs. I know I do have a lot of limiting beliefs, doubts, whether I can do something, especially when there's a new challenge or opportunity. And then, I mean, the topic before with mentoring is super critical, right? That you have a support system, you have a network. I think some people talk about have your own board of directors that really help you, give you advice, but also hold a mirror up and tell you, where you have your blind spots and where you need to work on. And then I think we also heard, and then give back, right? Build your social capital in that sense, in the company and beyond, that you really have a network that you can build on.
Thank you, very important. Are there any additions to Marion's comments? Then you have probably said it all. And like with the first group, I want to do another round of individual questions with you about leadership. Lizzie, you are the first woman and the first Paraguayan at the top of a multinational corporation, Nestlé. What do you recommend to young talented women who look up to you and dream about becoming like you? You're on mute.
What an emotional and challenging question to summarize in 2 or 3 minutes, but I think it's not only magic recipe, but I can share with you some important things that contributed to get me here in this position. First of all, I think it's very important that you must love what you do. I think when you love what you do, so you are passionate, are very prepared to tackle when the troubles appears and to face different challenges that you will face. Another thing is very, very important. Be resilient. I always say that when somebody says, I can, it's not possible, the challenge just begun. Like we say in Guarani, that is our native language, is Garra Guarani is when we put more intensity, more energy to try to capture, to try to gain what you are looking for. And I think this is possible to, and you can read unimaginable things. Another thing is don't be anxious about the next position. I always say that it's very important to do every single role, every single position the best you can. And somebody is always look at you And when you are passionate, so you will shine. And another thing very important to me is never stop learning. Always, it's important learn from your colleagues, from every leader, and even collaborators you work with. And you have the possibility, have a mentor, an experienced person that can support you and lead you. And lastly, don't let your confidence be determined by others. Lead by your example, and always trust on you.
Wow, this is very moving. Thank you very much for these words, Lizzie. Monique, next question for you. You are in charge of the South Cluster for Novartis. That means 5 countries and many different cultures. What would you say is your special leadership ingredient that makes you successful?
So thank you for the question. And I think for me, it comes like more, I cannot say if I'm successful, right, or not. I mean, it goes far beyond what you're achieving, let's say, from the numbers and deliverables of the companies. Of course, I guess as many of my colleagues, if we're here, is because we have been able to deliver. But for me, it comes more on and I always say to the teams, right, when coming, it's what do I want to leave behind me once I take another challenge or I leave the company and all of that. And I think that not only requires, as Marion said, like a strong self-awareness. Of course, I'm aware on where I'm strong, but also where I'm weak, right? And where I need the support of others. I think it speaks a lot about my authenticity. So people know what they can expect from me and I ask them, but also what I'm able to deliver and where I will need like some help. And then again, for me, it's always about setting like the right culture, right? So to ensure that the good, but also like the tough conversations can take place, that people can speak up when something is not working, where they need support, and that also we can discuss like the things that are not going well. So I think I come from the approach that I'm type more of the orchestrator, right? Because I mean, we all realize that we need the teams that are like in every layer of an organization, and also that we can best reflect like the external world, not only from the internal perspective. So I would say that's I don't know if it's my recipe, but that's the way I always face like the challenges and try to deliver on that.
Thank you so much, Monique. Very, very important comment. Now the next question, Susanna. If you had the possibility to give any leader 3 ingredients, how to shape the profile of their company to achieve greater diversity, inclusion, and equality, what would those ingredients be?
Okay, just 3.
Oh, if you have 4 or 5, go ahead. We have time.
There's several. Yes, I can talk from my own experience also, because I was the CEO of Hauser, and at that time I was the only one in the world. So together with other girls, other female managers, we thought that we have to change the situation, because it's a tech industry, it's difficult automation business, is very men-oriented, but we have a work to do. So the first you have to do is to make this visible, and you have to have an authentic connection to this diversity and inclusion process. So you have to tell this openly and work also and do it as a personal also priority. So this, I think the first ingredient would be this personal involvement in diversity and inclusion. Secondly, we built a group, So you have to build something in the company, like a council, a committee, or whatever, that can outline all the ways to reach this diversity and inclusion. So in this committee, you have to have several people from the company, hopefully also diverse people, not only women, men, young, old people. So they can maybe have an outcome as a policy, no? Diversity and inclusion policy. And you have to do all the things that are mentioned before, to measure, to track the results, to show the results to the company. And third, I don't know if it's third, there can be several, but you have to train people. So you have to outline a training program. So everybody understand what diversity and inclusion means, what the benefits are for the company. And there you have to include everything, bias, you have to sexual harassment, everything that are related to diversity and inclusion. And in our case, we did also engage to programs that were available at that time. For example, the Women Empowerment Principles from United Nations, we signed this web. By the way, this Swiss Chilean Chamber of Commerce also signed as a whole, and several companies, yeah, it's good, it was a good thing. And several companies also in Chile also signed these webs. And in Chile, we have also a standard. It is called NCH 3262, and it is a standard for management of gender equality and reconciliation of work, family, and personal life. And also several companies from the chamber has followed and certified in this standard. And it is great because it is like a standard from ISO 9000, so everybody is involved. Everybody has something to do on that, and everybody is conscious about what his collaboration means for the company. So it was also a good thing to know about this standard, and some companies are already certifying. There are others. There are others also programs, but I think the companies has to follow some of them, or have this outside view and help to follow this diversity and inclusion way.
Thank you very much, Susanna. And now, Marion. You have worked in Zurich, in San Francisco, and are now in charge of 3 countries of South America for Roche. What would you say was your biggest challenge as a leader when you accepted this position, and how did you tackle it?
Yeah, I think, when I first became a people leader, that was in San Francisco, and it was within the department that I already had been working several years. I knew the people, I knew the business, so it felt like a very natural progression, and I felt very confident that I could do the job, and I could do a good job coaching my team, make decisions with confidence. But when I took this new role, that was a very different situation, because it was a new area for me, a new country. I didn't speak the language that well. And so overall, I felt quite incompetent to be the leader of a team. And so I really had to kind of lean into this vulnerability and approach it with a beginner's mindset, to listen, to learn, to ask what might seem stupid questions, right? And really empower my team much more to make their own decisions. The good thing was that, and I think you already heard a bit from Anna and from Bettina, now in Roche, we really went through a transformation, and that also included transformation of what it means to be a leader. You know, in the old paradigm, you had to be more the expert, the one that takes all the decisions, that controls what's being done. But with this new paradigm, leaders need to show up very, very differently as enablers, empowering the team, providing a vision, and just be more of a coach that is asking the right questions and finding the answers together. So I think that context really helped in that sense. It certainly felt quite uncomfortable, but I think it was a really good opportunity to really lean into this transformation.
Thank you very much, Marion. I am actually through with all the questions that I prepared, but we still have time. And I would like to thank you, ladies, all so much for your candid and insightful contributions here. It was wonderful and so inspiring having you all on this panel. And for sure, our viewers must have enjoyed it as much as I did. And at least I hope so. And I'm now handing over to my colleague, Christian. I don't know, Christian, have you been tracking any of the questions in the chat and in the Q&A? Perhaps we could take some of those before you go ahead with your closing remarks.
Of course, Tatiana, yes, there have been many interesting comments and also some questions. So I'm going to read. The first one is it possible for women working in 2 areas of work, if she demonstrates agility and also this person recognizes a good self-esteem for her career and not only focus on a single task or education to grow professionally? So here we're talking about multitasking. Whoever wants to answer, please go ahead.
So women are famous for multitasking, right? But I think it doesn't depend on the gender. Again, actually, it's on your capabilities, your competence, your experiences, your background, your organization skills. I don't know. I think that we need to think more about the talent and not about the gender when we approach different topics in business and in different industries as well. So I would change the question, not depending on the gender, but what are the skills that help you multitask, or what do you need in order to have a broader scope in your profession or whatever. But I truly believe that it's not depending on the gender, it's depending on your experience, your knowledge, your talents, I don't know, your competence in general, in order to be able to do more than one thing, or to be in charge of more than one division, or I don't know, in general.
Yeah,
I fully agree, and I would like to add also, it's important for women ask ourselves, as Marion said before, what do you want to do? You want to be focused in one area, you want to focus in several areas because you think that you can manage and you can do it. So for women, it's important to ask ourselves, because our society brings us to another direction. So it's important to ask ourselves what you want to do, to trust on our skills and go for it, and create this environment that support you, no? Familiars, partners, team workers, whatever that supports you on that decision, and go for it. That's it.
yes.
And I would only add that it is always important, yes, multitasking, you know, it's important, and women are well known for that, and that is good, but we should not lose focus, because the fact that we can do many things at the same time sometimes also make us, or could make us, lose focus. So it's always important to make sure that we prioritize and that we don't lose focus on what is really important and what needs to be done, right?
And I would also say, if you want to say no, right? Because that's also sometimes very hard. So that's something to also practice, saying no.
Yes.
So we have another 2 questions that I will put into one. So we're talking about diversity and inclusion, today gender equality, but what about other minority groups? For example, there's a question, how do you share experience including people with disabilities? And there's another question, now it's the Pride Month, so how do you include also LGBTQ plus people when talking about diversity in your company?
I think I can share a little bit what's going on, and I like that we're putting like all these, like the minority representation, right? Regardless if it's females, LGBTQ, whatever type of minorities. I think the first thing is, I think as I said, I truly believe we need to open the floor to speak up, right? And I guess what we're facing mostly in depends on the country, of course, and the type of company, is that we don't get like, it's difficult to find those people that we can like really are able and willing to join the company. I guess it's not only about like the talent I'm sure we will be able to find, but I think we're also working a lot on creating the proper environment, right? To ensure that we can fulfill the needs. When I think about disabilities, I think that has been like, at least in the company I'm working for, Novartis, it's been at least in the top of my mind, right? When we think, sometimes it's either because of the accommodation you have, because of the skills that are needed, but I'm sure we're trying to discuss about it. And for those people that put it into the questions, whatever idea you might have, I think it's also like that we will be keen to hear and to start to change the way this is being perceived, because there's the willingness to be as inclusive as possible.
Thank you, Monique. Anyone else? Comments? If it's not the case, maybe we can end, Tatiana, if you agree, with a round of final comments of each of the speakers. We still have some time. Maybe the final comment can be linked, and I think it would be interested. How is the gender issue perceived in the country you're living in or that you're working at? Because we have several countries, also differences between the countries in Latin America. So maybe we can start with Lizzie Kennedy.
Okay, I can talk about Nestlé. In Region Plata, we're involved Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina. Gender balance is increased. I can say that in Paraguay, for example, we have 50% of women in a board, for example. If I speak about Argentina, it's about 40% of women in all the management position. So I think it's a very important thing, and we are focused on how increase and how strengthen the abilities for more women can get in those kind of positions.
Thank you, Lizzie. Susana, what about in Chile?
Yeah, in Chile, we have a big gap still. In the management positions, we have only 12% of CEOs that are women. And in the boards of directors, we have close to 13%. So we have still a long way. And in general, participation on the market of women decreased a lot before of the pandemic. So now it is time to recover that, but it is very difficult because more women abandon their jobs than men because of the pandemic, because they have to take care of children, so childcare and so on. It is still a big problem for women to participate in the work market, labor market.
Thank you. Paola, what about in Ecuador? And this was also a question in the chat.
Well, in Ecuador, we still, I think that in general, in LATAM, we are a little far behind from Europe in general. In Ecuador, only 1 every 10 women holds the position of CEO of a company, and the composition of the board of directors is only 26% with women representation. So it's still a long way to go, but I think that we have increased our metrics, even though in the last 2 or 3 years. But of course, with the pandemic, I think that it was seen worldwide. All the efforts in the caring of the house and childcare and the old people was more an issue for the women than for men. And when we see the destruction of jobs, we regret to see that women were the women were the more affected. So in general, I see that the pandemic put us a huge challenge in front of us in terms of equality and gender equality specifically. And of course, it's very important to have a more representation, not only in CEOs and in board of directors, but in politics, because at the end, actually to be part of creating the policies to create more fair and inclusive environment is also depend on the public policies that the governments are working with. So, and in that specific spectrum in Latin America, we still are far behind. We don't have a woman president in our region yet. So of course, I think that the challenge that we are facing are important. But my hope, at least, is actually when I see my kids, I have 2 kids, they don't think about gender equality. Actually, for my daughter, is actually that there's not an issue. So that's the hope that I have, because of course, young generations, they see that everything is normal. We are all equal. So they don't even have the challenge there, which is also very positive. So of course, the hope is in these young generations and to do the real transformation in our future.
Thank you, Paula. Very, very interesting. Now, Ana, I just read that Colombia elected its first women vice president, but also from African descent. How do you see diversity moving forward in Colombia?
As Paula said, I think that Latin America is far behind from Europe or from other parts of North America. But Colombia, seeing what my colleagues said, I think is a little bit above the mean of Latin America, with 25% of CEOs women. So we are working on it, let's say. But I think, as Paula said, and when I talk with my daughter also, and how important is the role model? No? How important is that, for example, for my kids, I am the one who is growing my career. My husband is more in charge of the kids. So how important is this role model? Because this is the normal thing for them. And this is great, no? They don't ask even about gender. So that is the way to go. And I think that this super important education for the kids. Our kids is the future, our future leaders. So it's super important to be very conscious of that, to be aware of that gender inequality that is also running in all the world, and even more in Latin America, and be aware of that is super, super important. And also these kind of things, no, as this webinar that we are doing is a fact that is needed. Is needed, this kind of initiative, these kind of things, because we are far behind our other colleagues. So we have to work on that. It's our responsibility also.
Thank you, Ana. Karina, moving on to Mexico. Or I think her internet might be unstable. Maybe we go with Monique from Monique Lua in Argentina, and then we go back to Mexico.
Yeah, I think we shared already. It depends on the type of environment you're looking. As with all my colleagues, I truly believe there's like a lot of do. So basically what I was thinking is that we have like many participants in this webinar. So we invite you to take action and really like join the conversation and push for the barriers that need to be removed. Right? I think we need to be active in the change we want to see, And of course, it starts from your house. So I agree with Anna. I'm also trying to educate kids with no double standards. So I expect the same from my boys as from my girls with the same education. But I think in the societies we're living, we need to be very, very active. And I think it's a joint responsibility that it's not only within the companies, but within every type of the systems we're interacting with. So thank you for the initiative.
Mhm.
Thanks, Monique. Karina, I think we can hear you now.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, I agree. Mexico is not very different from what we are seeing in every other country in Latin America. We still have a long path to go. I see in Mexico that, I mean, only 17% of very high management positions are held by women. And even thinking a little bit apart from that, you know, women in Mexico, we represent 44% of the GDP annually, but only 30% of women listed within this portion of the GDP actually carry social security benefits and everything that is legal within the workforce. So this gives us a very harsh idea of how much work we still need to do. I agree that when it comes to politics, it's also very important that we have proper legislation that protects gender equality. And, you know, it's incredible. You know, in Mexico, it was only a couple of years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, 2015, when we actually saw this political reform in which gender equality was actually raised to a constitutional level. So this gives us a clear idea that we still have plenty of work to do. And I believe that it's still going to take a lot of work before we see gender equality not be a topic anymore, but working on it.
Thanks, Karina. And last but not least, Marion, how do you see the things in Uruguay?
Yeah, so I don't have the numbers for the general situation in Uruguay. I'm sure it's similar to what my colleagues described. In our specific leadership team, currently we have the opposite situation, that we are only 2 men and 5 women. So I think there we also need to make sure, you know, we keep a certain balance, right? And what I think is also important, yes, of course, now we have a lot of women, but everybody has a different personality and different style, right? And I think that's, you know, we talked a lot about role models. I think that's also an important message, that you don't have to just be one certain way to make it to the top, but you can have very different personality and different styles and approaches. And that is also an important part of diversity.
Thank you. And maybe last, Tatiana, do you want to say something about Switzerland, since you were over there living in Zurich?
Thank you, Christian. I don't want to say too much. I feel my voice is kind of saying goodbye to me. I hope it will still be okay until the end of the webinar. Well, in Switzerland, all I can say now is that we have this established rule, if not law, that, for example, the corporations that are quoted on the stock exchange have to have at least 30% of women in their advisory boards. And I know that a lot of programs have been started over the past couple of years in terms of familiarization and sensibilization towards the issue of diversity and inclusion and equality in many companies, in the banks as well. It is moving in the right direction, but I think my personal opinion is that it will still take that we still have a long way to go, that it will take a bit of time. I mean, last year we celebrated 50 years of women's vote in Switzerland, and look where we got. I mean, we're still almost 15% away from economic equality. So there's still a lot of work to be done, and we have to, you know, be sensitive to it and be proactive and not let loose, and inform and raise awareness, and keep the foot down, huh? And I think it's a worthwhile cause, but I feel it will still take a lot of time to achieve our goals.
Thank you, Tatiana, very much, and to all the speakers for the interesting remarks. I think we learned a lot, all the participants. And as I said at the beginning, I am glad to see this webinar materialize, since we have been planning it for almost a year with 8 different chambers, 9 different time zones. So I'm glad it finally happened, and hopefully we continue this conversation with other webinars in the future. So just to end, I coordinate the group of 12 Swiss chambers of commerce in Latin America. Today we have 8 countries participating, but there's 4 more others. And actually I'm the only man in the group, so I have the pleasure of working with 11 female directors from the chambers in the countries that we heard today, but also in Brazil, in Guatemala, I think Venezuela as well, and of course with Tatiana from LATCAM. So gender equality, diversity and inclusion, I think it's a pillar in our chambers, but also in the companies that we represent. And besides doing events like this one, joint events on Latin American region, several Swiss chambers have also undertaken many initiatives that we heard today, like a leadership program that Chile is managing with other chambers, or a mentorship program that we have here in Mexico. So also thinking that we're only 8 years apart from 2030 for the United Nations 2030 agenda, no? And the SDG number 5, which is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. I think the private sector must increase exponentially all of its efforts to promote gender equality, women empowerment in the workforce. And not only, like we also talked today, in big multinationals, but also in micro and SMEs. And also, like someone said, not only as a percentage of the workforce, but in particular in high-level positions. So there's a clear link between diversity and business performance and productivity, creativity in more diverse teams like we heard today. And I would like to finalize maybe talking briefly on the importance of being an ally of gender equality. You know? So what can we do as men also to support this cause? First, I think to invite other men, to stand in solidarity with women, to create a united force against, for gender equality or inclusion. Second, put an end to all kinds of discrimination and gender-based violence, especially you live in a country like mine, sadly in Mexico. Every day we see a missing girls and women, and violence is really rampant. So this must also be an issue that should be addressed from the private sector and the public sector, of course. And third, not being afraid to address this issue, speak up against unfair situations, even propose change within our organizations. And I think that can be very important. So thank you, Tatiana, again, to all the speakers. I think gender equality is very important for us, like I said, and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation in future webinars, or we have a long list of many ideas and good practices that we can share also with all the participants. So thank you very much, and have a great day or evening if you're in Switzerland.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Goodbye. Muchas
Thank you all.
Adios.
Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.